As long as we're all good for a recap.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Okay.
good.
Previously, you returned to town with a mission in mind. You needed to look into a disappearance of a young girl. Um, Conveniently, after you asked immediately for assistance, you were able to get from Danica a likely identity due to a combination of a good luck roll and some good investigation, who directed you to the local lake, Lake Zarovich, where it seemed that two hunters believed throwing her in would bring back the bounty that has been slowly dwindling from these forests, presumably as a sacrifice of some sort. You weren't able to talk to them, though, as you put both of them to sleep very quickly and saved Arabelle, the little girl, from drowning. Um, Precisely who or what really they intended to sacrifice to her remains unclear, but her father was rather thankful that you returned her in one piece, despite her griping and grousing most of the way there. You all made out like bandits with quite a bit of additional gold in your pockets, and returned back to Valaki, I think, to tidy up a little bit of that shopping and some errand running. So to start off the session, I will handle a couple points there. We're going to start with you, Ayakabachi.
Okay.
You had said that you wanted to scout out the Burgomaster's manor. You guys are welcome in town, obviously, so wandering around is not a problem. And I know you need to be relatively close to Webward, but I assume you can do that in wild shape if necessary.
Yeah, right. Be like a squirrel in a tree or something.
Exactly. So you can wander over towards the Baron and, send out Webward, duck behind a bush, turn into a squirrel, find a safe spot. I'm going to be honest, I'm not even going to request a roll because you guys are at the point where you're mid-level adventurers. These are town guards. They're commoners. I trust that you know how to act like a squirrel. I don't need a deception check. Um, yeah, especially because Ayakabachi has shown a penchant for staying in animal forms for extended amounts of time. This is not just a utility thing for him. It seems to be like slipping on a different outfit, you know?
In a very
But
short
you're
time, the town has seen an alligator, a squirrel, a dog, a cat.
right. at
There's been a
least
spider.
At least the dog, the cat, and the squirrel are local. The alligator, on the other hand, might get some people talking. But fortunately, you took the long way around when you brought them
Right.
back to the Vistana encampment. Anyway, you send Webward in, and it's a medieval house. It's a nice one, but there's plenty of narrow gaps in door jambs and window sills that Webward's able to squeeze his way in and avoid the maid scuttling along the ceilings and the crowned molding at the top of the walls. Um, he's able to keep watch for a couple hours if you wanted to dedicate that amount of time. It'll still be kind of mid-morning by the time you're done with that, honestly, because we had ended last night with sleeping, and then you will wake up this next morning to have a couple of things to go on in town. And we'll give you plenty of time to still run your errand for the day if you all wish. But in kind of watching the rising of the household in the morning and all of that, Webward makes a couple observations. First of all, he overhears conversations about the butler going missing and also Lady Valakovich, her lady in waiting, sort of like her number one servant, somewhere between a bestie and a maid, has also gone missing. Um, there's, sort of some hushed conversation about, oh, well, maybe they ran off together. But he hears that a couple times, and each time it's shut down by a different staff member. No, they hated each other. There's no way. Something foul happened here. The other thing that Webward would catch is that he notices that both the Baron and Ezek seem to be spending quite a lot of time in an upstairs closet. Uh, Not for anything scandalous as that might sound, but scandalous in a different way, as often there's horrible blood-curdling screaming coming from that particular closet. You've heard the name Udo Lukovic, the shoemaker that spoke out against the Baron that seems to be being held and tortured. You're pretty sure this is where it is. Um, there's also a lot of time, even in these few hours, where like seemingly every 10 minutes, Ezek, pacing around the house frustrated, will dip in there for just 2 minutes at a time and seemingly just like grab a pair of pliers and wrench on something because he looks frustrated, walks in there, screams intensify, and he will come back out looking much calmer. Seems to be using this man as a stress toy. One final observation. Webward follows the Baron for a while and discovers that he seems to have the key to everything in the manor. The maids have to come to him to ask to unlock things. Maybe a sign of how paranoid he's getting. However, you spot Ezek having a key to his own room, that locked closet, and to the outside doors.
Perfect.
All right. Ervir, you're okay listening at least
Yeah,
still?
desk.
So, you had discussed wanting to get the rest of that armor and also figure out some of that customization. Rolmir, you were going to go along to maybe act as a bit of a liaison when it came to dealing with Arasek, or have you decided to let Ervir handle that on his own?
Um, don't know if it would be easier to be like, because I don't know if I was gonna shapeshift into.
For the armor, like selling the armor and everything, right? You
Oh,
wanted
oh
to
yeah,
sell it
yeah.
back to him. I'm talking about just buying the rest of the plate mail. So if you wanted to
Oh,
go
okay. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
separately,
Yeah, no, I mean we could probably because I could do bartering though, so it'd probably make sense if I went with.
that's kind of what I was thinking. Just kind of you two combined is
Yeah,
probably more likely to be successful in bartering. Not that Ervir's not good at talking to people, but he's probably a little bit too nice to push. Um, But the two of you arrive together, and actually, funnily enough, it turns out that Arasek, Gunter is his first name, is particularly thankful for what you guys did for the town. He mentions that there was some looting in the aftermath of the chaos that went on with Strahd, but it seems to be mostly things that people would have needed. Nobody uh, stole extravagantly from the till. Nobody like came through and raided the jewelry. The things that went missing, he mentions the armor, although obviously he doesn't know that you took it. As well as a couple weapons, and some food that people may have been worried about having enough of in the coming days. But all told, he's still very thankful that you kept the town safe. He saw from the edges of the crowd how bad things could have gone, and he's willing, despite listing a much higher price initially for the rest of the suit, to let it go for 90 gold. He said that's what he needs in order to basically pay back what he spent for the pieces over time. Um, he doesn't plan to make a profit on it, but he does have to keep the shop open. So I guess the question is, Rolmir, would you push him on that?
If Ferber is there, I don't think he would let him with
You
a
think you'd
story like
just cut
that.
it and say,
yeah,
that's fine? Okay.
yeah. I mean, I
And also
yeah.
knowing the cost of just what of the rest
Mhm.
of a set of half plate would be.
Sure. And as he described you, like, the breastplate's useless, would need to be completely reforged. It probably needs some, love here and there from an armorer. So there will be a little bit more expense, but he will point you to somebody. Um, he mentions that Mikoya Larnak, just a local guy, is willing to do the smithing work. Um, he
Well, we have our own
mostly
breastplate, right? So we're not
Yeah,
even
you have the
buying that part of it.
breastplate, but you have to buy the back piece. You have to buy,
Okay.
the actual pauldrons. Basically, he's saying, to him, he couldn't really sell it as armor. It's literally got like, a cannonball-sized hole in the middle
Yeah.
of the chest. Um, which now that you've seen it a couple times, you probably recognize as Strahd getting fed up with someone who was wearing it and just putting a fist through their heart. You see the telltale sign of just like actual
An entry,
indentations
an
from
exit wound,
knuckles. Yes.
knuckled edges
Um,
on the side of the hole. Terrible.
yes. So that's a little spooky, but yes, 90 gold for the breastplate. So mark that off from whoever's inventory decides to pay for that. He
Yeah, I
mentions
got
that his wife, Yelena, she's not like an ironsmith, but she is like competent when it comes to goldsmithing. She fixes up a lot of the jewelry that comes through there. She's willing to do the engraving work for you if you'd like. But you should probably stop over at Mikoya's to actually get the armor fitted because you can tell, it's not going to be a perfect fit.
That doesn't need to be its half plate.
Well, it still needs to not like shift around awkwardly when you move. But he points you up the
Yeah,
road.
that's what the straps are for.
Yes. But point being, it's not going to need a complete resmithing or anything, but this guy is going to need to at least take your measurements and take it from you
Yeah.
for about a day to do like, rehammering it to the proper shape and yada yada.
Eh?
Give or take. That's already like vastly accelerated from what it would really take for that kind of
I don't
blacksmithing
think we're
work.
planning on leaving today anyway. I think we're leaving tomorrow, so I should be able to pick it up first thing.
Fair enough. And in fact, if you're mentioning that to him, he does promise you he'll, work to get it done. He asks you for 10 gold in total for materials. That includes new buckles, new leather for the straps, any, all of the like fine fittings and rivets and whatnot that need to be reset. And he also asks you 5 gold for the labor, bringing your total cost up to 105.
Okay.
Interestingly, when it comes time to take your measurements, he actually wheels out kind of an unusual construct. Think like a dress form or like a training dummy, somewhere between the two. Has like a whole bunch of adjustable panels and whatnot. Kind of looks vaguely like a human torso. He asks for you to stand with your back to it. And he mutters a quick command word, and you can hear, and as you turn around to look, see it snapping and resizing automatically. Seems like a bit of a high magic thing to you, and you probably go, "Oh, that's interesting. Where does it come from?" Oh, he mentions offhandedly, it's actually been in the family for a long time. Made by a legendary toy maker, whose name you would have seen when you were actually at Blinksy's, because he has a little like signed thing from him, Fritz von Vierg. That's Fritz, as you'd expect, von, and then Vierg is Weerg. Um, who seems to be able to come and go from the fog. But he is known in this valley going back seemingly centuries.
Is that a like big D&D name that I should know?
No,
I know if that was a reference or not.
it is an NPC that's important to this mod, but I don't think you would
Okay.
know it elsewhere. I think he has interesting stuff, and I'm adding a hook for the name here because otherwise, who knows? But I
Sure.
do think that this is something that, yeah, he'd be very proud of. And in fact, you can see, he'd point out the maker's mark on the like edge of the, like kind of where the waist would be on the dummy. Um, it's his name spelled out, and it bears the mark of 2 crossed wands behind the name. But yeah, so for 105 gold in about 24 hours, you'll have a suit of
Fabulous.
half plate. And Yelena says, whenever you have time, she plans to actually acid etch it. So she'll start working on a stencil based on your description, and it'll take maybe an hour to do the work whenever you have a moment.
Okay. Sounds good.
But yeah, as a reminder, with the start of this
I'll
day,
keep the scale mail for now, I suppose.
that's fair. I figured you weren't going to just run around in, a shirt and pants for the day. But if
You
you
never
wish to
know.
sell that back to Borden, I mean, you could. But if you wish to sell that back to Borden afterward, he can negotiate with you there.
Wait,
Um,
he's not Borden,
Not
correct?
Borden. I'm sorry, Arasek. Gunter.
Okay,
I
you're
was
just
looking at.
jumping
I
at
was
next thing
looking at.
coming up.
Yes, I was looking at Borden's name, which was the thing that you all wanted to do. Maybe was to sit down and talk with Borden and be like, "Yo, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
what's the
sure
story
enough,
on that? What do you know? What can you tell us? And just
yes.
your other
As
stuff's gone if you want to give us a story on those two. Who is crackling? It's Frank. It's always Frank.
there's always one, for whatever reason.
Better?
Yes.
Yeah. Are your wires just frayed internally? Is that what that is?
Yeah, I need to get a new headset.
Yes. No worries, by the way. It's whatever. Um, Amber makes ambient crackling noises in the other D&D group. For 6 months, Jake's headset sounded like a construction site was set up in his bedroom. We put up with it. But yes, you all catch Borden as you kind of collectively come back from your morning activities at, let's say, like 9 a.m. He's up and fairly bright-eyed, sitting at the counter in the Blue Water. And, as you all come in, kind of offers you a friendly wave and, asks to catch up about what's been going on over the last couple days. I assume you make small talk for a while, but
Probably
as,
regale him with some of our recent
yes.
escapades.
Is there
As
anything you want to
presumably
particularly call out?
ex-adventurer of himself. What's
And
that?
this we can shift into kind of like in character for this because this may be an interesting conversation. But yeah, what would you like to regale him with? What stands out in Irvir's mind?
The time Strahd punched him in the chest. And he got up.
He kind of looks you up and down and well, I think that's particularly impressive. No offense meant, but you're not exactly the usual frontline sort.
He
But
sighs. I don't think he really meant it.
I think that would be the in-character reaction. Does, from what I've heard, seem to be a bit of a dick.
I
Uh,
said that same thing.
um, with that,
Are we
uh,
best friends?
I was gonna say, I think I would have liked to have you around back in my adventuring days. Man, there were a number of times could have used a lighter sort of heart to things. The rest of the group was a bit too serious for my taste. And you note, like, as he's like talking to you and properly, like, getting into this conversation, there's none of like this slow like nodding off and like gaps in where he seems to just be kind of staring off into nothing that you witnessed when you actually stopped at the Broken Spoke and met him and Bev the first time. Um, and he seems like properly energized, and he spins off into his own tale. Uh, this one time, walking down the road, we were beset by a ambush of orc bandits. He says, kind of glancing at Norling out of the corner of his eye for a while, and
Carla gives him the Dwayne Johnson, huh?
He's one of the good
Raised
ones.
eyebrow.
Well,
I
maybe
find it
he's
important
not-
to note
he's
that
one of the better ones.
oh no! I meant nothing by it. I just didn't want you getting offended. I find it important to say they swung first. And, well, the point of the whole thing was we
Sounds
ended it
typical of
without. Well, yes, in my experience anyway. But we ended it without any loss of life. The reason I thought of it is, well, did your clan or tribe, or I'll be honest, I don't know the right word, did you play that game where you literally stand across from each other and try and knock the other guy down with a single blow? It's like a show of strength, some tribal thing. Or maybe they were just fucking with us. I don't really know. Anyway, point being, me, and you look at him, he's fit, but he's, again, not a frontline sort. Through my own dumb mouth, I end up being the one that has to get punched. And I lasted the first one, so did he. And then he sent me about 10 feet back with the second one. So, I feel your pain. That's, kind of looking at you earlier. And really, no bad blood with me and the orcs. Honestly, well, you saw, we hadn't stopped by the tavern all the time. And he kind of
Just
like
worth it.
gives you an awkward thumbs up.
Oh, you have an orc friend, huh?
Well, you did. Look, he just kind of fidgets. I never adventured with one, but like I said, fairly friendly with the local tribes, at least back on the Sword Coast. But anyway, it sounds like you've really been up to some serious stuff. And I caught a whiff from Bev that, and he kind of looks around. The tavern's mostly emptied out. You might have something to do with the fact that I'm not quite so sleepy at the moment.
Decided we should take a look at whatever might be afflicting you. I found 3 things. One of them was certainly not a surprise to you, I'm sure.
He
And he
quirks
points to his neck.
eyebrows slightly suspiciously. Oh, you're talking about how it had done that? And...
No, the bite.
Oh, the bite. Yes. Oh, no. Yeah, that, well, in the past I've heard they heal sort of over time, but, feeling a bit more spry than I would have expected for only a few days rest, so thank you.
The second one was some lower level curse that was pretty much knocking your ass out all the time. I believe scholars these days are calling it narcolepsy.
According to the DSM, 1? Anyway, yeah, well, when it comes to that one, you know how it might be, expensive to get such a thing cleansed when you no longer are on the road with someone who could do it with a hand wave and a quick prayer. Earned that one, though, and, well, I suppose it had gone on a while, so I'm very thankful. Suffice to say, I pissed off the wrong witch doctor.
Well, maybe there's a worse one. So, you are an adventurer. You ever take out any shades or shadows?
He kind of looks around again and looks at Danica, who kind of quickly goes over to distract the 2 people that are left sitting at a table, with a little nod to him. Never really fought any, no, but I am rather entangled with one, which I assume is what you're
noticed.
talking about.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell if it was malevolent or, in an odd twist, benevolent. I could not figure its intention, but it did threaten me while I tried to treat you until I spoke with it and promised it that I'd leave it alone. Now, it didn't
Yeah.
respond verbally, but with body language it seemed like it was alright, and I let it be.
He kind of holds his hand out over the bar as though, like, he's just kind of gesturing to the side so that his shadow is cast along it. He goes, say hello, Villamor. And you see the hand wave as though it's like just the shadow. You said you weren't sure if he was benevolent or malevolent, and, well, this little shit's somewhere in the middle. He's a link back to my patron, if you understand.
Ah.
Don't go blasting that one around. That's, not something I've always been particularly proud of, but it did ensure the pact. And the fact that the glory and fame and power that comes with being an adventurer of a certain amount of renown isn't really my own. He's gotten a bit more Irish as his conversation's gone along, but I kind of like it, so I'm sticking with it.
He meant, which patron?
Oh, that I'm afraid I can't tell you. He's quite insistent on the, part of that one. But I think you can draw a conclusion or two.
A realm that they may inhabit.
Ah, I see. You were mentioning, or you were asking which flavor rather than which one in particular. He's a member of the Unseelie Court. That being the dark side of the Feywild.
And Narlik's just kind of like jotting this down to the side in his little book.
Mm-hmm.
Urber makes no particular motions or reactions. Just nods.
Yeah, and that's not like an inherently... It's not like, I sold my soul to Satan, which might
No,
offend
that's
people
why I had to
present
think about it. I was
company
like, wait a
excluded.
minute.
The Fae are all bad, including the Sealy Court, which are like the good Fae. They're all gonna twist your arm to get what they want, kind of no matter what. But it's more. You get the feeling he's not so much ashamed of who the patron is, he's just ashamed that he had to become a warlock to do what he
Yeah.
did. I will say one thing, since you're bringing it up, and, well, given you're the only other adventurers that have been beyond the fog that I've managed to speak to, I feel a bit of an odd, I don't know, stronger connection to him since coming here. Hear him a little clearer when he speaks. And once or twice in getting chastised for not doing anything interesting and, recuperating like someone made of meat and bones and badly bruised by an eldritch or ancient elder vampire. I would swear I felt his touch a couple times, which, well, I've never really been able to do before, except on a few skirmishes down into the Underdark and the 2 occasions where I've been to the Feywild myself. It's something odd. As I'm sure you're aware, we're not in Faerun anymore, so
No,
I
it's
don't
the
know.
Shadowfell.
Shadowfell. The
I
folks
think I'm
here seem.
correct. Out of character.
You are, but you don't know that in character.
Oh, I thought we knew that we were in the core.
The core is not part of the Shadowfell. The core is
Oh.
adjacent to the Shadowfell. Well, you're correct about the Shadowfell being an influence here. The core is like
But I
Faerun
can't say that because
or
I don't know that. Okay.
yeah. You could, but you'd be taking a swing, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily make that connection though.
But yeah, I mean, if you want to retract it to the core,
Yeah, I'll say the core.
and that's what I've heard people call it. But I'll be honest, I'm not familiar. Never got quite to the dimension hopping heights as some do. But I've heard Greyhawk or Eberron. Never heard of the core, much less this place in particular. So maybe the planar geometry is just a bit weird around these parts. Could be putting the Feywild closer than normal.
I take out a piece of paper and draw a cosmological map.
The Feywild normally intersects with the Prime Material Plane. It also touches on a few other adjacent planes, namely all of the ones that overlay the material, the Shadowfell, the Ethereal, the Astral, etc. But as far as you understand it,
It's like a big pillar in the center. That's what the core is, isn't it? It's like it's actually in the center, and then the material planes are like outside, and then you have like the Shadowfell, and then like the ethereal and shit like that.
Yes. So like this borders on everything. I thought you were talking about the Shadowfell in particular, or the Feywild and the Shadowfell and all that.
Oh no.
Yes, the core is weird. It touches everything, but it itself is a stable reality. So it's not like the astral sea between all of them. But yeah, he kind of like looks at it and fidgets, and like I said, I'm the sort that gets the magic the easy way, not the and he gestures at Narlug, the smart way. So my dimensional theory, my planar theory is well, somewhere in the middle. You priests do like to read.
Behold, the fruits of my labor. And show him the map.
Case in point. But point being, I don't know if I can make any proper theory other than pointing out that, well, something seems to be strange and the membrane seems to be thin between here and the Feywild. That's all.
Well, theoretically, the fog could get you anywhere. It's not like a straight road, I'd reckon. They don't have adventurers from just Faerun walking here. And the Vistani have spoke about several different worlds that made no sense to me. At least nowhere I'd ever been. Certainly not Faerun. So it is a sort of nexus.
I think all this stuff's a bit, well, high-minded for me, but I will keep an eye on it. For now,
There's a lot to be done with that house, really. Still stuck.
hmm,
Still
he
ancient
nods.
evil to be annihilated.
And on that note, while I'm hardly back to my old fighting strength, I am feeling much better. I'll need a couple days, but if you need another, well, I was going to say sword, but honestly, set of sparkly fingers, I'd be happy to throw in with you if you do need it, especially if you're going after Bev.
We will be. The time is rapidly approaching, but there's a few things we need to check out first. Mostly find some artifacts that would hopefully help us.
He
And
nods.
try to keep this place from burning down in the meantime.
Yeah, at least on that front. Um, well, I've been trying to do my best to lift spirits around the actual bar here, and I've gone for a stroll or two and tried to make sure people don't flip any lids. My talents have always been a bit more in the mental manipulation side of things, and I've corrected a fight or two before they happen. I'll do my best to keep doing that.
It is incredible timing that you come to us now and say that. What a weird coincidence.
He quirks an eyebrow. You just mean the general state of things, or?
Yeah, probably trust me.
Or if you're internally going, do I tip my hand? Do I not tip my hand?
There's gonna be some really angry people soon.
Mm.
And we want them to be angry, but we don't want them to hurt anybody.
Hmm.
You know, roving mobs and all that. Not really,
He nods.
but
Well,
we've got a plan to make this a much nicer city.
could use a bit of, well, cleaning up. Um, I won't press. I can tell you're a bit shy about the details, but
Things
within
need to fall into
reason,
place.
mhm, within reason, I'd be happy to help out. Um, don't know if I can go controlling a whole crowd, but key person or two shouldn't be a problem.
Maybe if you just see a nice little opportunity, I won't even give you all the details so you can keep your hands clean of as much as possible. But on the day of, and you'll know the day of, if you see a good opportunity, take it.
He'd nod. Um,
And also
well,
trust us that that day's not the end of the plan.
right.
There'll be
That's a lot of.
there will be something where you go, is that really the right plan? And just know it's not, and we're not done.
That I think's a bit easier to follow. The initial bit was a bit, well, rest of the fucking owl.
Yes, just draw it.
Anyway, thank you again, and also thank you for not insisting when it comes to Velamork. And the shadow kind of like waves again, um, but as he looks away from it back at you, it flips you off. Um, he's he's a bit of a prick, but I think having him forcefully separated from me probably wouldn't have done either of us any good. So,
No, he did threaten to kill you.
yeah, well, he looks down and, like, there's no real response other than, like, drumming fingers on the table. I suppose that's fair. It is a binding contract, after all.
Is that a pun?
Well, no, but now you say it, yes? God damn it, Mike. Um, But yes, we're both quite thankful for what you did. And I'll start putting some of my
Not a
talents
problem.
back to
Least I
work.
can do.
But yeah, and he would offer to buy you all around if you want. You know, he's hardly like you need to here, but he'll pay for the good stuff if you'd like to go with your breakfast.
I doubt you came here with much, so you leave that to us.
Ah,
We've been busy while you've been sleeping.
fair enough. No shame in offering, though. But yeah,
Very much
you know,
appreciate it regardless.
kind of gets you a bit of an idea. Also, if you really want that name, that's the Shadow.
That mean Narlock doesn't have it anymore? Felt like
Nope.
I passed off. Bro just showed up and said, "Hey, kiddo, want a spell? You like magic?"
The temptation to a deal has to start somewhere. Also, Narlug Shadow was acting a little weird. We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Well, he had like a whole lot of sleep paralysis demon.
They did.
Oh no, is a twist that it's not the same shadow?
You might have to investigate such a thing. But yeah,
Can't do
you
it.
guys.
Narlock's keeping it to himself. He has to investigate.
He's taking notes.
True. He did say he was
Get your
taking notes.
magnifying glass.
But yeah, you know, you guys are kind of turned loose on the town at about 10 a.m., which, like I said, is still time to make the loop if you'd like, as long as you don't linger. Or, if you do linger anywhere, plenty of time to stay over in Barovia Village for a night. Do you want to go today, or do you want to go tomorrow? And if you don't want to go, where would you all like to focus your efforts? Lady Walker maybe still needs a visit.
Yes, Lady Walker does need a visit. I believe we have some amount of time.
Yes, today
although I'm not
is
necessarily opposed to staying in Barovia Village for the night.
fair enough. Today would be the dawn of the 6th day in the countdown, so there's, 5 after today, and then dawn of that 7th day will be the festival.
Should we go and get the fake document, so just to show Walkthrough that it's done?
I believe you have it.
Yes,
I do have it on me. I couldn't remember if
you had
Yeah,
asked at the end
one of
of
the
last
kids brought it
session,
to you.
and then one of the kids brought it to you.
That's right, and then he stole from me. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, he did.
Okay, now I remember.
Good game, recognized game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, then I could show her that it is finished, just so she kind of keeps her at bay for the time being.
Sure.
How long do we think that'll take? Do we want to actually maybe head out after that potentially? Because while you do that, Irvier didn't really have any plans of accompanying, but he could grab Rictavio.
Oh, true.
like,
You
"Hey."
could round out Octavio and Irina and everybody.
Yeah, you want to go make some merriment in the other village? Give these people a break? While you have an armed escort on the way?
Mm-hmm. Give these people a break, and somebody behind him who's watched his juggling routine 18 nights in a row goes.
But I don't
Same
know
trick
if
every time.
we had any more plans in Veliki for today, or if
No, I
travel
don't. I'm
does make
good.
the most sense.
Okay, so you guys will then plan to talk to Lady Walker, which probably will not be a horrendously long affair. And
I'm sure
then
she would love
hit
to
the road.
drag it out, but I don't
She
think
would,
that's
but
our intention.
so who all is going with to talk to Lady Walker, or is it just you, Ralmir?
Someone wants to come with her.
Narla Google is a bodyguard.
Okay. Oh,
Big intimidating.
that is
He'll
true.
make sure his tusks are sticking out extra far.
Hey, baby, I heard you like underbite.
Yep.
You could be like the henchman, and then you got your puppet goon, so it's like he's got two bodyguards.
He's always looking behind me.
Gosh, the back of my head.
Amazing. Also, I am going to reread the flavor text for Walker House because I think it's amazing. As you climb up the hill to, actually the BB is already there, go visit Wachter House. This house seems disgusted with itself. A slouching roof hangs heavy over furrowed gables, and moss-covered walls sag and bulge under the weight of the vegetation. As you study the house's sullen countenance, you hear the edifice actually groan. Only then do you realize the extent to which the house hates what it has become. But yes, as you work your way up the front path, actually Carl is there to open the door as you are walking up to knock on it. And he kind of gives a bit of a, almost comical start. Um, well, I wasn't expecting to run across you two. I was just on my way to market. Would you like to come in, or are you looking for me? This is the younger of the two, by the way.
Yeah, I had business with Lady Walker.
Uh, of course. I still would like to pull you aside for at least one night of drinking and gambling at some point, but for now, I suppose you can talk to the lady of the house. And he gives you a big
Also,
smile.
a quick reminder that the son's not necessarily being fully on board with their mom was an angle we had considered, uh, but we have no definitive proof of either other than Occam's razor says they're totally in on it. Whether it was reluctant or not.
Um, I want to do an insight check when you talked about the drinking and gambling, though, to see if that's just what he really wants, though, or if it was
Sure.
or if you kind of hear in the tone of his voice, so if he's like kind of like over like business with his mom.
Sure. Go ahead and roll it. Okay. It seems to you like he's pretty sincere. Like as he offers you that, oh, I'd love to go out for a night of drinking and gambling. There's like this brief glance upward and a slight raising of his eyebrows that is just like you read in his body language, please get me out of this house. Now, whether or not that has anything to do with his mom, I don't know if that insight roll is good enough, but you are certain he means it. But there are other factors, right? The
Yeah.
town kind of sucks right now. But you know he does want to get away. And the one thing I will remind you of, because Mike just brought it up, is you don't know that the two of them are particularly on board. In fact, in their initial meeting where you all sat down, the two of them stood by her dutifully and, kind of sat through the conversation. But the only point where they really like leaned forward in their chairs and seemed to like literally be cracking knuckles and hoping that you would agree is where she mentioned getting revenge for her daughter for what Victor Valakovich, the Baron's son, did to her daughter Stella. And the two of them seemed very much to want recompense for that.
I mean, that makes sense though. It's more of like a personal thing, not really a cultist thing.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, you can tell they're
Yeah.
in on the plan at least just to fucking get back at
Get
Victor,
well,
but you don't
yep.
know about the other stuff. And she did only bring the imp out once they were out of the room. So if you're actively thinking back on that, where like you two are having a conversation, like we don't know if they're in it, I think those are the things that would stand out to you from that interaction. But yeah, he basically gives you the please get me out of this house. But uh, if you want to come in and speak to mother, I will call on her. Please wait in the parlor. You know which way to go. And it's in and to the left, and there's that nice little sitting area. The windows are currently set to not batshit crazy cultist and are just showing the garden outside. Um, with all of that stained glass covered up by the simple illusion of just showing the outdoors. She doesn't make you two wait particularly long, although Narlug, you're briefly excited and then slightly disappointed to see that there is a little spread of small pies that have been placed out for tea, but they are not the pies.
They
They are
smell
good though.
standard fruit.
Yes. Uh, None of that delicious meat pie, but it is probably a welcome thing to see fruit pies out for actually consuming because you remember there's not a lot of that kind of stuff to go around. But Wachter House does have some private apple trees, which means they have fresh fruit.
Mm. They do smell good either way.
Indeed. But yes, Lady Wachter will, in her stern and kind of elderly way, straight back, slight scowl on her face, walk into the room until she sees you, Ralmir, at which point it kind of brightens up into a big grin. Oh, it is wonderful to see you again. It is always a joy to see you visit this beautiful home. Please, help yourself, he says, looking over at Narlug. Are you already eating one or no? I don't know if you heard me. Dave, would you tuck in without waiting for an invite?
Yes.
Okay. Help yourselves. There are plenty to go around, especially for esteemed companions of the, well, chosen herald. But I prattle on, and she pulls out a chair and sits. What have you come to tell me?
And then I kind of just show her the forged documents though, and just let her know that it's all complete.
And she would, pull them across the table towards her, take a very close look, and she actually, like, would pull out a monocle, you know, the old-timey version of your reading glasses, uh, and, like, carefully go over it up close. This is truly impressive. The level of detail is astonishing. If I did not know that this was not an official document, I would certainly be swayed. And especially given that the Burgomaster himself is the only one who could possibly, in any meaningful way, tell the difference. Well, once you acquire his signet in which to imprint the wax, I think this will pass muster as far as anyone else in the village could possibly anticipate. And she just gets kind of like, oh, not teary-eyed, but like you can see, there's a slight shimmer to the way she looks. She just, you are every bit as impressive as we thought you might be. It just gives you a big smile. Uh, I do find the need, though, to point out that time ticks ever forward. There are only a few days now until the Baron must take the stage again in front of the whole town. We need to be ready in order to accuse him when that occurs.
Yep, we're working on getting the signet. And then that's pretty much all that we'll pretty much need for the rest of it.
He nods. It is also important that we decide who delivers this evidence. It is probably best if it does not come directly from me, so I will pass it back to you. She rolls it up gently and places it back into the scroll tube. If you are to be so bold as to accuse him yourself, I think the townsfolk will listen, especially given your selfless actions in protecting the town from Lord Strahd. But if you wish to defer responsibility, I am certain there are individuals who could be convinced to come forward with such evidence. All you must do is let me know.
Okay, we'll do that.
Um, and yes,
And then theoretically, do you know like if there would be like what kind of repercussions, what could happen if I was just the one to do it?
I'm not certain that I would say there would be direct repercussions unless it could be proven to be false. I more mean that the initial reaction from the guards may be less than friendly. You could get briefly detained until they are convinced. And I do not even mean a night in the stocks. I mean simply, I have no doubt they will wish to inspect it closely themselves and may ask that you stay with them, perhaps in manacles, perhaps not. But neither I nor my acquaintances would allow them to take you anywhere. She's basically saying it's a big accusation, and, well, what's a little bit of police brutality amongst friends, right? They might rough you up a little bit when they come to grab it and shake you around, but they're not going to kill you. They're not going to lock you up. But whoever does do the accusing probably is going to be in the middle of a circle of guards for whatever comes afterward. Um, but yeah, I think she'd exchange some brief pleasantries with you all. Thank you again for what you did to drive Strahd away. Um, Remind you she's very thankful that you have stuck to what you said. You've delivered this in a reasonable amount of time. You reassure her that the plan is progressing. Um, and I think she would probably, as you are all kind of getting ready to head out, rise, two-handed handshake to you, Rolmir again, extraordinarily thankful. And as you pull your hand back, there's a platinum piece in your palm. And she just goes, a little bit of money for whatever you may need in the interim. Like a doting grandmother. That's 10 gold.
10 gold. Okay.
Homer got a sugar mama.
Yeah.
This is still the same morning that we went north and messed with those guys and all that, right?
No, it's the went north and messed with all the guys. You mean at
And
the
then
lake?
yeah, at the lake, and then we went and dropped off the little girl. Is this all the same day still?
I was thinking it was the next day.
Okay. Then let me go ahead and.
But I think you would have used. Um, you did turn into a squirrel.
Yeah, and I use a wild shape for web word, so I just want to make sure
Okay, yeah,
I do a long rest, and I'm gonna switch some of my spells, and then I'll get rid of that.
sure.
If
Yeah,
this
go ahead.
is
Go ahead and switch spells
next
as you desired the
day,
previous
does
night.
that mean I bought the armor yesterday? Because didn't we end at midday?
Oh, I thought we ended in the afternoon, and
What
then
did
you
we do
got.
with all our time?
Okay, so maybe this is the afternoon of the previous day then. I
Okay, that's what I
apologize.
think. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it the way it is then.
That's why
My
I
bad.
was like, I didn't think we were leaving today, but when you're like, it's 9 a.m., I was like, we could leave today.
My mistake. Yes. Then this will be the back half of the previous day, and then you guys will have a full day for the road trip.
Okay.
Um, I yeah,
Um,
I normally jot down what time of day it is at the end. I did not do that last time.
Mm.
I'm sorry. Um,
and then how many more days is till the festival?
so in that case, tomorrow will be the 6th. So as of today, there are 7 days, and then the dawn of the 8th day. Tomorrow it will be 6, and then the dawn of the 7th day. So you have a lot of time with the speed that we've been handling this at. I fully expect there to be a day or so where you're just like, and then we put all of our final plans into place, and we kind of yada yada through it. But I will leave all of that time for you guys if you want to do it in advance, like in actual segments. Um, but yeah, I mean, really, what that means is this is the 4th day since Strahd attacked the town. It has not been particularly long. But yeah, so I guess what that means is all of this then ends kind of mid-afternoon.
Okay.
Um, as yeah, Lady Walker sends you on your way. You can let Rictavio and Irina know you'll set out at first light tomorrow then. Is there anything you guys want to do? You can get the plate mail fitted. If you're willing to pay him like an extra 2 gold, he'll work through the night to get it done for you so that you can grab it in the morning.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm just gonna fill the group in on what I learned about Isak, and that Yakobachi thinks that his frustration could lead to taking advantage of him and maybe get him to do something he wouldn't normally do. Maybe like leave the city to open a box that Marina gave him.
Hmm.
And he's also thinks that some of the guards and even some of the butlers might be getting fed up with. I mean, they could have just went on vacation, but maybe even some of the closest people to the Valakovic family, they're starting to see some of the cracks, and maybe they're starting to bounce because they realize this is not something I want to be a part of. So, could be something to consider.
Mhm.
The
Didn't the
crack.
son do some fucked up stuff to
Mm,
the Wachter daughter?
yeah, exactly. So he could
Who's to
Yes,
say
also
it's not
help her.
Victor
spreading?
and Stella.
And also, wasn't there another woman that had recently gone missing?
Yes,
Who the
another young
Baron stayed at?
woman. Hmm.
And the
And she
bones of a
seemed
young
to
woman
be.
too, from a long time
Hmm.
ago. We got multiple young women deceased and
Seeming an
alive,
awful lot more and more like we can't actually wait to the execution day.
right?
And it does seem, well, the Baron seems to be an asshole. The signs that you've seen that point to the disappearance of these young women probably do point to Victor. Um, you know, he had his way in one way or another with Stella. Um, and Irina did mention in passing that he was always kind of a creep, even when they were all younger. Um, but the Baron, as far as you can tell, he does have a wife, um, who they have that middle-aged couple vibe where neither one of them really wants anything to do with the other, but they have to stay together for public appearances. But also, everything, and Webward following him would, corroborate this. Everything you know is that he is just like the grouchiest old dad that likes to spend all of his time in the study so that nobody fucking bothers him. He's not out having dalliances uh, in that way. This is the man that at 9 o'clock in the morning wears his breastplate and rapier to read in his library.
Mm.
I mean, how else are you gonna turn the pages?
Right? Tabs the book, flips it over.
And then I'll just spend my night working on this antitoxin ingredient, try to get that prepared to give
Sure.
to Ralmir in the morning. So if he ever needs to consume the Kool-Aid, he can maybe survive.
That is a fair point too. What
Maybe.
John? Maybe.
Well, you don't know
Um,
good.
yes. But fair point. You can certainly complete that with this day. You'll have plenty of time.
That's all
Is
I
there
really
any
want to do.
other? Okay. Is there any other crafting or upkeep stuff that people want to tackle?
Not really crafting, but I do want to do like some discussions about the plan for go giving the handing over the documents.
Sure.
So, with being, I'm just gonna assume that I just told everybody about the
Sure.
whole thing. I'm not just gonna repeat it. But with being hassled by the guards though, and then wasn't Ezek wasn't he kind of like somewhat obsessed with Irina?
Irina, that I said Mira, but I meant
Mm-hmm.
Irina. If we could definitely.
Yes.
His frustration seems like we could take advantage of that, because he's emotional right now.
So
Mm-hmm.
So with him being, because he's obviously going to be at the festival, though, if it's Irina doing it, though, which
Oh,
very handing over the documents, though, might not get hassled as much. And
interesting.
and I wouldn't have her do it though. I would just still do it,
Right.
Mm-hmm. But disguised as her.
disguised as her.
There's just
Clever,
people wanting to be Irina these days.
right?
I really hope
What a
Uh,
Strahd
clever
doesn't show
idea.
up for this festival.
Right. I was also thinking too, like, what if we used Irina to draw out Isak, and then once we, crockboxed him, then you could be Isak, and you could go into the manor and try to get like the ring
That's
or
true.
the
Oh
skeleton
yeah,
key. You know, maybe
yeah. I mean,
Narlug
yeah.
is invisible
Uh,
behind you or something. I don't know what Narlug spells are, but I could be like a bug on you or something. I'd come with you.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, if we're still gonna crockbox them, if we're gonna do that before the festival.
Probably better than doing it at the festival, just because he's just one less person to worry about.
Yeah.
If there's no Ezek, I think the execution goes like without a problem. All the guards watch us fuck up Strahd, and all the guards gonna be like, "Oh, those are the guys that fucked up Strahd," and they've got evidence that says the Baron's working with Strahd. I don't know if I get paid enough.
Right? And Ezek is gonna be like intimidating them and scaring them, so they'll just do it so they don't get whipped. But if he's not around,
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus,
Ezek is there like, "Oh, if I don't do it, I just die, so I have to."
plus, I wanted to do the crockbox thing because that sounded funny.
Crockbox. It truly is like the silliest plan, but it really, if you can get that 1 minute window of enlarge reduce to work, I don't know how anybody predicts the crockbox.
Tell me you got like a lock of Irina's hair in it or some shit.
she can just
I
hand
think
it
it
to him.
sounded like,
Like, here
yeah,
you
they
go,
wanted
man.
it
Here's
to
a
be
gift.
Irina giving him something.
It's my, heart's
Uh,
desire to give you this gift, and we can be in love. Just gotta open it. I'm gonna stand over here while you do it.
Man, this is a heavy lock of hair. Oh my god! um, but yeah, that's actually a very fair point. With Ezek out of the way, every time you've seen him around the guards, they're very much afraid of him. And you know from Danica as well that he's kind of like the Baron's direct enforcer. He's the one that keeps everybody in line, doing what they're told. So if you take him out of the picture, it might make your plan much easier to execute. And I liked the idea about using him, disguising as him to go steal the ring.
When he's dead, we'll have to dress him up like Chubbs. Tall in the hips, Ezek.
Husband Chubbs McKenzie.
Ugh, the deep cuts. But yeah, okay. I think those definitely make sense for like things to work towards.
Yeah.
You'll probably want to figure out what you want her to bait him out there with, but it's not a bad idea. Can definitely uh, have that in my back pocket, so I'm ready to go with that. Okay, what else? Anything
Oh,
else with the rest of
also,
the
like,
evening?
like, for the enlarge enhance though, is that verbal too, or is that?
It's got
Basically,
all of
I
them, yeah.
think, yeah, I think the realistic way it's gonna have to go is you're gonna have the box behind a bush that Ayakobachi reduces himself and then
Cause
turns into
yeah,
a crocodile, and then Narlug reduces him, and then Ayakobachi gets in the box, and then you lead him to that bush less than a minute later and make a switcheroo to a different box so that you can hand him the croc box. Or maybe you just tell him I hid my gift for you out here or whatever.
yeah.
Um, but
Well,
yeah,
cause
I think
like,
their concentration 1 minute,
Yeah, it is
right?
a
That's the
minute.
duration.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, like if you put it outside the gate somewhere, you could have someone by the gate give a signal.
yeah,
Say like, "Oh, bro,
Yeah.
just passed
cause,
this
cause
point,
like,
and it's
cause if,
about 1 minute walk."
cause like, if there is like bushes and stuff like that, though, I could help them blend in with the disguise kit.
Right.
True.
Make it look like a bush. And even if like he holds it and it hits the 60 seconds and it explodes in his hands, it's still the same concept of crock box. It's just he doesn't open it. It's gonna blow up in a crock in his arms.
Right. You still
So
have a crocodile that is
worst
suddenly full
worst case
size.
scenario, he literally will not go near it. You could just throw the crock box at him, and we'll break concentration midair and just explode out of that box. You know what I mean? Like
You've now
it's a
created a
crock
crocodile
grenade at that
grenade.
point. Yes, it's a crock
Yes.
grenade.
How fucking horrifying. This reminds me of the discussion we had not long ago about how many sharks you can fit in a bag of holding.
Mm.
Because if you fill it with water and then you fill it with sharks and then you pierce the bag, everything inside comes spilling out. So, because it's larger than a 10-foot by 10-foot room, you could oversaturate a 10-foot by 10-foot room with sharks if you just, like, say that you wanted to surprise the Baron in his office, and you toss a bag in and shoot an arrow through it and close the door. That man is suddenly swimming with sharks with no warning. So we then got onto the topic of the bag full of sharks bomb, dropping it from a great height.
Oh yeah.
We also got into the how many vials of alchemist's fire can you fit into a bag of holding, which you then launch from a catapult and have the rangers shoot.
How
So
many-
you firebomb a city.
How many bees could you fit in there,
How
Frank?
many
You know what I
bees?
mean?
Lots of bees. Many bees.
How many portable holes can you fit in a bag of holding?
0. When you mix those two, you get a nuke. That's actually what happens. One of them explodes and does like 40d10 to everything within 200 feet, and then if you put the other one into the other one, I don't know which one does which, everything within 1,000 feet gets sucked into the astral plane.
Yeah.
So,
So you
don't do
create
that.
a nice thick ass arrow and you fold them up and like insert them and have a breakable,
There
a very
are
thin breakable
artificers who
mechanism in the center, and you load in a crossbow bolt.
There are artificers who have designed blueprints for the whole bag of holding into a bag of holding gun, which shoots them and then they combined after the. Yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah, this is me in real life. I was like, oh yeah, you can make that. That's easy.
Absolutely. That is the closest
You
thing
just
to a
need to-
WMD you can get in
Yeah.
in D&D.
How much glitter could you put in a bag of holding?
Oh, so much glitter. Oh my god.
Glitter
Just
bomb
glitter.
it.
Glitter bomb fucking Strahd, dude.
You drop that from a high enough altitude, you could give the entirety of Waterdeep craft herpes. But yes, anyway, bag of holdings make fun bombs. Sadly, you don't have enough of them or enough gold to play around with that concept. But, you know, in case you're ever a high level adventurer. Or make it out
That's
of this
good.
mod
Right.
with the amount of treasure there is at the end.
Maybe
Anyway.
scout location suitable for an ambush. I don't know. I don't think it's in town.
Yeah, it's definitely somewhere outside of town. Maybe somewhere,
So,
within 60
there
feet.
are a couple, like, well, I don't know about within 60 feet of town,
Not
but there
60
are a
feet,
couple of
60
these,
seconds,
like,
I'm sorry.
yeah, little, like, outbuildings and stuff.
That's
So
actually a good
certainly,
idea,
like,
too. Like, say we're here, and then somebody's, like, hiding over here to warn us, or maybe over here. They can, like, give us a sign or something, and give us enough time.
yeah, or even, honestly, it's a straight enough shot there. You guys could probably just be, like, peeking out around the side of the house and be like, yep, they're almost here. But yeah, I mean, if you want to set up an ambush for him out there, the guards are stationed at the gate, and it'd be like 1,000 feet or more, out to there. So, I don't think anybody's going to hear anything unless there's particularly loud screaming.
I mean, they very well might after a while.
I guess that's true. I'd probably scream if a crocodile came out of a shoebox. But point being, even a normal "Oh God, Jesus, fuck, what is that?" Is not going to carry 1,000 feet away.
That's true.
And
For
just
the
this guy
record,
just put
I mean,
things.
music
or
out there and
like
walk back in.
he very well just might be in shock from the whole situation
Mm-hmm. But
because
yes,
We get a good surprise round on
Go
him.
ahead.
You guys give him a little vulnerability, hit him with a little sneaky, you know what I'm saying? Knock him out pretty quick. Hopefully.
I'm just saying, patch the grave followed by either a crocodile bite or a sneak attack is probably a sizable portion of most things' hit points. I actually don't know off the top of my head how tanky Ezek is, but
Yeah, I can hold him still in my jaw while Ralmir just stabs him in the face.
take a pretty good chunk out of it with that. Tankier than
oh
I
yeah,
thought. But...
so like mechanically though, so it's like if like if you like have them in your mouth though, does that count as a grapple?
Yeah, he's
It is a
restrained.
grapple.
I don't know if he's restrained,
Yeah.
but he's definitely grappled. Yeah, he is restrained.
Mm-hmm.
So he wouldn't be able to do
Is
any
grappled. It is.
Oh, it is
Okay.
grapple.
actions.
Okay.
You just be stabbing them.
Yeah.
Oh,
You get advantage too. I have to look at restrained. I forget what it does.
I think that completely stops movement and attacks.
That's,
is
it just means he has to break that before he can do anything else.
Let's see. Restraint. Oh, you linked it.
creatures. Oh,
Oh, okay.
it-
Disadvantage, but not complete prevention.
Disadvantage on deck saves. You want to fireball me?
Grab a water real quick.
Toasty crocodile.
Hosty crocodile. What was I going to say? Oh, just the one thing that I will point out about 1,000 feet. Even the spells that are loud enough that they point out, like, this makes a ton of noise and can be heard for a great distance. The distance they list is 300 feet.
Right.
oh, like knock.
Yes.
Knock
Or Thunder Wave.
Yeah. Those thunder spells.
Oh, what was the fucking? What were the fucking the berry ones?
Oh, Phantasmal Magnum or Magtasmal Killer.
Yeah, it was Magtasmal Killer
Magtasmal
though.
Killer.
I think the
I'm a metalish. The hell is that?
A magnum that casts Phantasmal Killer, by
Yep.
my guess.
Yep. Yeah, I'm good. I'm ready to.
Or yeah,
I'm ready to get
yeah.
out of the woods.
I think I had a Magnum Wave too.
Yeah, that's Thunderwave.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think basically you guys would scout out, a couple locales, and this probably seems like the best place where you're going to have cover without having to lure them into the woods.
Yeah, that probably makes
Um,
sense.
and it's probably far enough that like the only people that might overhear you, these are barns basically. Um, would be if there's any like farmer nearby that happens to be, going through the hay bale stocks that day, who you could probably either pay off or distract or just have Tarlug put to sleep.
Okay.
So,
Or bribe them. We got
or
bribe
bribe
now.
him. Like I said, you could pay him off. A gold piece is a lot of money to a peasant, especially to make the mean asshole that puts everybody in the stocks go away quietly. So yeah. Why is the turn order still open? Remove all. But yeah, okay. So I'm gonna make a
You
note
guys
or
want
two
to
about
plan anything
that.
else? You got any other ideas?
Mm,
I know, Dave, you have a hard stop in like an hour or in like 43 minutes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta take apart my computer and stuff for work tomorrow.
Okay.
You gotta take apart your computer for work?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go back to work in the office for a while.
Uh,
Tragedy.
And then tomorrow morning, what do we plan on doing? What do we want to do? Do we want to go to Barovia? Do you want to go to Grow Bone Grinder? What do we want to do?
Yes, so I think that's
Village of
worth.
Barovia is the idea, at
Okay.
least on the way out. That is my big priority because there is time sensitive shit there.
Yeah, we can do that.
yeah.
And then I think
Okay.
on the way back, we want to stop at Madame Eva's to get the rest of our reading.
Mhm.
And then, probably depending on time, maybe Bone Grinder.
Yeah, I mean, I still owe him the meat pie.
And we never really checked it out.
Axe.
Yeah, we just know that we were warned away from it.
And you
So we
guys
don't know what's
are,
there.
well, you haven't been here for long. You're also much less green than you were when you arrived. You are not level 1 anymore, or level 2,
Yeah.
maybe you were by that point.
We just know there's some
Um,
kind of danger there. We don't know of what kind.
Right. Okay, so the basic plan would be to head for Barovia Village first,
Mm-hmm.
and then work your way backward. All right. Um,
Also, that means to me that if there's a lot of shit going on in the village, which I hope there's not, but if there is,
you have more time.
blow our big spells And that way,
Ah,
if Bone Grinder is like, oh, well, this was an optional stop.
maybe
And
tomorrow after a long rest. The old
That's
Right.
right.
adventurer's conundrum. It's funny. Okay, that makes sense to me.
What?
So, in that case, it sounds as though we can bring this evening to a close. Um, and you would all retreat to the inn or to the church as you so choose. Um, the night does pass fairly uneventfully. Things are still a little bit tense, and the guards do usher everybody indoors immediately at sundown. Um, you don't hear any scuffles throughout the night. You do not wake up with additional bird shit covering your things. And Narlik, you actually sleep normally this time. No strange sleep paralysis.
Woohoo.
Um, but, um, you know, maybe there might have been some answers. I guess you'll have to ask him the next time he shows up. Anyway, you all wake bright and early. Um, Irina has already pre-packed the night before. Rictavio is easily collected. He asks you to meet him on the east end of town, over by Arasek. Um, and you can see him, like, as you go to pick him up, just kind of like puzzling over something. And he turns to look at the group as Rictavio. Would any of you happen to know what happened with the, well, giant puddle of blood in the back of the wagon?
Ruby immediately looks at Yakubachi with a very blank expression on his face, but he's like,
Uh, I believe you have an apex predator back there, and he probably ate something.
A very large something.
You can see the glasses are currently invisible, but he looks at you over them.
wasn't Rick Tavio there? He knows damn well what went in the back of that wagon
No, no, no. He
when
knew
we
you got
caught
the
it.
boar. Yes.
Yeah,
He
I don't
just
think he
kind of
knows
I
anything.
think you can
sighs.
piece it
I don't,
together.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, which is
uh,
why he's asking you. Um,
the boar was enlarged too, so I mean, it was probably an abnormal amount of blood.
And then, oh, it's Chinese food. He ate, and then 30 minutes later, he's hungry again.
Right? He all got small in his stomach. Um, isn't it?
I
Wouldn't it be right for a predator such as this one with claws so sharp to use them to slice? It only seems right.
Oh, very well. I suppose he has been particularly patient. Just, let me know next time you plan on feeding him. I went through the trouble of making sure there were fresh wolf steaks, and, well, wouldn't want him getting fat and lazy, now would we?
Well, the hunt keeps one spry. Maybe he's due for one.
And a hunt there shall be at the right and intended time.
That's fair.
And he gives you a bit of just like a nod, but also a slight eye roll. Uh, and the last thing he does is flip shut the little like compartment underneath the seat, and he lifts up his bag onto his shoulder. Then I suppose we ought to be hitting the road. You want me to drive again?
We taking his wagon?
Oh, I figured you just grabbed the wagon from the Blue Water. But if you want to walk, you can walk. A horse isn't really any faster. It's just more comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, our cars are loaning it out.
Yeah, they're willing to. I mean, you've done them a number of,
Yeah,
major favors.
it's just hard. In my own head, it's like, well, there's a risk that something happens to the cart and the horses, and we don't have a particular need for it. It's like, is it
Fair.
only a
You do
risk for
make a
the
good
sake of
point.
taking a risk?
Right?
We're not listed on their insurance.
Yeah.
You are not listed on their insurance. They do need the wagon to make the wine deliveries, so you're
Yeah.
right. It is a risk.
think we just walk.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm down with walking.
Fair enough. Forget I said that. Um, as I assume you wouldn't have brought it from the inn. Um, yeah, I suppose ready for the old dusty trail. And you set off early in the morning as things are still a bit misty and a bit moody. It seems a particularly gloomy day. It's not raining, but the cloud cover is dense. And as always, there is still a thunderstorm that lingers over Castle Ravenloft. And as you wind your way through the woods, I think we need to roll on a certain table.
No.
It is the way it works. Um, let us see. Okay. You keep running into him. How interesting.
Man, when does he get a name?
Well, you haven't hit the trigger for that yet.
Damn.
Um, but it does progress what he's up to. As the fog is still obscuring some of the sun, out of the mists, not too far into the woods, maybe 30 minutes into your trip, um, you begin to hear those same plodding hoofbeats and rattle of well-worn armor that you've heard many times before, and the skeletal figure on horseback bearing the lantern walks out of the fog. And it seems as though, for once, he almost recognizes you. The empty eye sockets with the faint spectral glow deep in them, turning immediately to lock onto your group, instead of just staring blankly at the road ahead. And as he
Last time
draws
he
near,
came to us and held the lantern to us, right? And like
Mhm.
specifically looked at us.
He did. Um, you ran into him once where he was like fully just did not even recognize that you were there.
I think he
You
did
ran
say
into him
he
once where he
ignored.
seemed to, yes, inspect you a little bit closer. And this time, do you step out of his way? Well, obviously, I assume you're stepping out of the horse's direct path, but are you like getting off the road or are you sticking around to let it go by within kind of conversational distance?
Give it a berth, but hasn't seemed hostile so far, so I
Mhm.
don't think go out of the way to create like a wide berth.
Very well. So yeah, give him 15 feet of clearance or whatever. But as he goes to cross past the party, he pulls back on where there would be reins, but they seem to have completely rotted away, and the horse reacts as though there were, and comes to a stop. And he turns his head slowly in your direction, the rusted mail creaking and, clattering. And he lifts the lantern, which sheds no light this time of day. Friendly faces again. I must ask, have you seen any other members of my order of late? And he gestures to his tabard, which is rotted to tatters, and the symbol that was once there is unreadable scraps of embroidery.
I'm going to pop my head out and just tell him that I saw a remnant of an order of knights. He was walking through the woods far west. Uh, there was mention of a place called Argenvalstelholt.
Argenvold Salt, yes.
Yes, and
Um,
that's all. I saw him for just a moment, then he was gone.
there is a brief intensifying of the light in the eye sockets, like it grows brighter for a moment. Yes, I remember. Argenvost. The Order of the Silver Dragon awaits me. Thank you, traveler.
And I'll ask him if Strahd struck him down at some point in his life, if he remembers.
There's a heavy, like, rattling sigh. You can hear bits of the skeleton clatter as he does it. I'm afraid that yes, he struck both me and many of my brothers low. And yet, we are not so easily ended. I shall seek them out, and together, perhaps, we may ride again against him.
And I'll mention that I hope you do find your fellow hunters, and the hunt that we seek, I think, is the same prize. I think we can definitely assist each other.
And he raises the rusted remains of his longsword aloft in kind of like a salute to you. Uh, May we meet again on the field of glorious battle to strike down this Dark Lord. And he offers
Shall
you
we
again
call
the
you Sir
salute,
Knight?
and then
Or to whom the honor do we have speaking to, Sir Knight?
and as you ask him that question, the flicker returns to the eyes, and he kind of seems to fade back out. The sword goes back into the sheath. The hand takes the reins, and his eyes lock again on the horizon. And under his breath, you hear him mutter, "Ah, Volstholt, the Order of the Silver Dragon." And the horse progresses down the road. Seemingly only has moments of lucidity. And Erger, you would know this. Revenants that have lingered far too long begin to lose parts of themselves. So he probably is caught in a loop, basically.
Yeah.
But if you find him again, you might be able to catch him uh, either at Argynvostholt if he does keep it together long enough to get there, or on the road, like with another thing to jog his memory, you might be able to snap him back into it enough to kind of have a conversation for a brief moment. That seemed longer than the last time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's another big to-do thing. Yeah, whole
Mhm.
much to do. I think we've got like most of the hooks at this point.
You do. There are a few things that have not quite come up, but yes, at this point you've got locales to explore. Um, I
Some
mean,
things are
shit.
more time sensitive than others.
hmm but yeah, you progress along the road, and over the course of perhaps 90 minutes, you kind of make your way past this big switchback and begin to climb into the foothills. And as the fog begins to kind of lift for the day, and you can look back as you come up the slow rise over the valley, you see the normal cooking fires and whatnot, little bits of smoke drifting from Valaki. And you spot the old bone grinder in the distance. It seems to you that there's a cooking fire here as well, and in fact, a delicious scents of meat pies waft to you on the
Garlic instantly
breeze.
nose in the air.
His nose up like a dog.
Meat
Keep it
pies.
together, Narlug.
Start scratching his arms and shit.
just one, come on.
Y'all got any more of that meat
little,
pies?
little stopover. Um,
My
Just a
top with
nibble.
a free meat pie giveaway.
But as you get a good look at the mill today, the actual windmill itself is running. The tattered and miserable, like worn down blades in a very slow rotation. And as you pass by the road that goes in front of it, which is perhaps only a few hundred feet, you can actually hear the rattling and clattering of the machinery running along with the cooking fires within. Um, but yeah, if you are not stopping in, you pass through there as well, and soon you find yourself outside of the massive gates that seem to border Ravenloft's grounds. As before, when you draw close, though they stand closed, you get maybe 100 or so feet out, and Rictavia goes, "Well, I hope whatever opened them for you last time works again, or else we're going to..." And there's a, like, loud booming clang, and sure enough, they creak slowly open. And he goes, "On second thought, I'm not sure if that's worse than having to find our way around Rover."
Nothing else. He is a heck of a doorman.
And he shrugs. And a bit of a quality sculptor, I'll admit, as he looks at the 100-foot tall knights that flank this passage. But as before, the door swings open, perhaps 10 or so feet. Just enough room for you to walk through without having to feel like you're getting, kind of squashed. And you step forth into the direct proximity of Castle Ravenloft. And almost as though crossing that doorway brings the storm, you are quickly set upon by actual rain. And Octavia reaches into his bag and pulls out a cloak, and Irina pulls her hood up and everything. And she just mutters to herself, "It's been nice not having to worry about constant downpour. Only this weather ever made its way past Barovia Village. It's just... well, it'd be good to be home, but I wish we didn't have to deal with this." Um,
Agobachi's only natural showers are rain, so I'm gonna put that studded leather on and see, get a little cleaned off.
sure,
A little
sure.
bloody.
Yeah, rinse off some of the blood. Um, but yeah, you pass, I assume, taking the south road and not taking the spur towards the castle. Um, and I'm certain you're keeping an eye out for any
When you
green
looked up
figures
earlier, when you
sneaking
were
up at
thinking,
you.
that was my first thought. I was like, I'm gonna look up in the sky.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Let me. How about this? Give me 3 even or odds in a row. No, let's just make it 4 for fun. Each of you give me one. Rolmir, even or odd? Oh, you're muted,
Your
I
mic's
think.
acting up, Frank. It's not even. Oh, I don't hear anything.
Even.
Oh,
There we go. Even? Okay. Narlag, even or odd?
Even.
Okay. Ervir, even or odd?
Ah,
Okay. Akabachi.
even
Okay.
in that order.
Gotcha. So, as you progress your way along, uh, for the record, I've rolled odd, 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 odd.
It's awesome. 1 out of 4,
Uh,
baby.
right? Oh, sorry. Bomb texting me. Um, yes, as you progress your way along, fortunately there was one success in there, because though you do at a certain point spot a lone figure standing hundreds of feet up in the sky, and staring down at you, it briefly, clearly tracks your progression, and then reaches down, throws its cloak over itself, and turns to walk away, just vanishing. Clearly, you are being observed, but you are not attacked. As you make your way past the Sayre Falls, at least in some small measure of protection, past a running river between you and the castle. You can see briefly down through the pouring rain to where the Vistani make their camp by Madame Eva's, and progress steadily through this next winding set of switchbacks to make your way down the road. I need one more random encounter roll here. Damn, you guys are lucky. I think that's nothing. Double checking.
I need to be so bad. I'll be right back. I can
It
listen.
is. Fair enough. But yes, you are not accosted. Choosing for now to bypass the little footpath that runs up to the Tsarpool encampment, you make your way steadily towards Barovia village. The little tiny bridge that runs across the Ivlis River is still in the same state of disrepair it was, but at least you know it'll hold your weight now. And as you actually catch sight of Barovia village, you can see Rictavio kind of go, "Ay," and remark, "Well, I knew you said it was a bit gloomy and miserable over here, but I don't think I realized you really meant it. I just sort of meant you, or thought you meant gloomy and miserable, kind of like, Barovia." And Irina goes, "Well, you really don't need to rub it in, but yes, if there's anywhere in these lands that is particularly under the direct oppression of Lord Strahd, this is it." And though he kind of throws up his hands in like a, my bad look, um, well, I don't mean to rub it in, but it is important to note that that means perhaps people here might have some insights that I may be able to mine from them. Ideas about, well, what he does in the town where he's able to come and go a little bit more freely. And she just shakes her head. Um, if you wish to visit the Blood on the Vine and try and plumb the townsfolk for information, please do help yourself. And he goes, "Right, will do," and kind of runs ahead of the group towards town. She just watches him go with a head shake. Um, well, as you trudge through the farmland on the west edge of town, we are back. And I suppose that begs the question, where to first? I'd obviously like to go meet with my brother, but seeing as it doesn't seem as though the town's burned down in our absence, if necessary, Ismark can wait. She kind of looks to the group. I think Mike will have thoughts on that, but
Yeah, I don't
he's
know exactly what
still
Mike wanted
taking a
to
leak.
do. Where is that church in between the one with the guy stuck in the basement? It's in between Barovia and somewhere in here, or is it in Barovia?
It's up north. I can give you guys some map. No, not that.
Okay, it's this way.
So the church is up here,
Our old Barovia boys is right
and
here.
you
Yeah.
guys are coming in from the western edge.
Yeah, that's what we're here to do. If we can
Also, I'm gonna change the color on that. That's way too hard to
There you
see.
ease
go.
his suffering even a second sooner, that should be our priority. As much as I would also like to visit Ismark.
Okay. And you can see Irina just kind of she nods.
She don't like it, but she gets it too.
Yes, she gets it. Um, very well then. While the sun is, well, as strong as it ever gets here, we should head for the church, and we'll kind of half lead the way. Yeah, the
Yeah, I'm down with
church.
that. I got some books to return.
hmm And here's your description, since it's been a while. Atop a slight rise against the roots of the pillar stone that supports Castle Ravenloft stands a gray, sagging edifice of stone and wood. This church has obviously weathered the assaults of evil for centuries on end, and is worn and weary. A bell tower rises towards the back, and flickering light shines through holes in the shingled roof. The rafters strain feebly against the load and the rain. Um, it seems like as you walk up, you can see that the doors have been not so much like repaired. Last you were here, they were covered with claw marks and had been definitely damaged by fire, um, but they've been repainted, and the bit of the gate that had been torn loose has been repaired. It seems like there's been some upkeep done. Um,
The fact that they're still there is maybe a good sign.
mhm. But yeah, if you wish to head on in, you
Yeah,
certainly can.
I'll be a little concerned. Take my shield out, throw that thing out. Maybe summon a little ball of fire for a produce flame. Just be ready.
Okay. Um,
Don't know what to expect when I walk in this place.
Very well. God, the map is so hell blasted because the last time you were here was days ago when that would have happened, but I can't really fix that. So we're gonna go with descriptions for now. Yeah, you walk up to the door, and as with the church anywhere, you would expect to be able to just walk in. So you try the front entry, and it is not locked or chained. Um, and as you enter, um, you notice that the mess has been cleaned up. The last you were here, the pews had been splintered in most of the room, and there was detritus and debris strewn all about. But while the pews haven't been replaced, the place has been swept, been tidied up. A few of them still stand mostly whole near the back of the room. Um, and you do find that Father Donovich, who was the portly old priest you met the first you were here, uh, does stand behind the altar, which has been put back in the center of the church. Let me finish. And kneeling before it, though bound in iron chains, is his son, Doru. You can see an immediate resemblance, though the boy is not graying or quite as portly as his old man. Um, but, well, his skin is certainly a little bit graying. Though, as you, slowly, I assume, with weapons and firebolt drawn,
Ruby won't have
um,
his weapons drawn.
well, I saw at least Ayakobachi was doing it.
Yeah.
But yes, as you edge your way into the room, um, Father Donovich stops speaking, closes the good book on the lectern, and you might be surprised. You know, he's praying directly to a vampire. But Doru is not thrashing or screaming or anything. He almost seems to be kind of like in a trance, if that makes any sense. Um, but Donovich welcomes you in with a bit of a shushing gesture. It is safe to enter, as long as you do not come too close, nor make any sudden movements.
I'll like
And Irina, you can tell, is
Gotcha.
uncomfortable and stays all the way to the back of the group.
I'll just like light a hard to reach candle or something. Be like, all right.
He kind of like watches it happen and just like nods and then turns to look at the rest of the group, particularly probably Ervir and Ralmir, who kind of in combination came up with the initial scheme to lock the basement. Um, I do not know if he can still properly hear us, but I do know that since he has been restrained where he is, his constant requests for blood, his constant pleading, have ceased. It was no small feat, with several members volunteered from the town in order to detain him and to bind him as he has been. But I think it is possible that, well, the Morning Lord's word has begun to reach him. Um, Go ahead and give me like any assessing rolls of the situation you'd like, perhaps insight or
Yeah,
religion.
definitely do insight. Oh, I did history.
Hmm.
Sorry. What's gonna be?
You do
Thank
a
God I got it out
religion
of the
roll.
way. Thank God I got it out of the way. Ooh,
Okay. That's a good insight roll,
Hallelujah.
Arvier.
My insight.
God damn.
Insight's probably better.
Okay. I think, at the very least, Romir and Ervir for sure catch what I'm about to describe. I think Ayakabachi, you get most of it, and Ervir, you'll get a bit extra at the end. But you can tell Father Donovich is like barely holding it together. He's providing this calm and collected and reassured external image of what's going on here. But you all notice there's a slight tremor in his hands, and not out of fear, but coupled with the bags under his eyes, the fact that he looks as though he's got a bit of sweat on his forehead, he doesn't look as well maintained as last time. He's probably running himself extremely ragged in order to just be praying as much as possible at all times of the day. He believes this is working, but you can tell he's descending into like borderline mania. And Ervir, I think what you catch that the others might not, you've seen this before when a member of the clergy almost convinces themselves that a miracle is occurring, despite knowing for sure that it is not.
Who's to say it didn't, though? As long as this works.
But that's what you catch, is that
Yeah, I get it.
underlying, like, there is doubt even if he won't admit it to himself.
Yeah, and especially as a death cleric, like, it's not even just the clergy. I'm sure he would see this all the time from anyone just because of his proximity to death. Anyone that's trying to convince themselves of one thing that they know is not true.
Indeed. The denial stage of grief here. And Doru does move slightly, like he kind of rocks back and forth, so he's not just starved to death here. But you notice he is bound in heavy iron chains around, like, his chest, which keeps his arms at his side, around his wrists that are kind of locked in front of him, around his ankles and knees, which keep him in this kneeling position. Honestly, it looks like torture if he was a normal human. And both the wrists and the ankles are bolted to heavy rings that are set in the floor directly into the beams, and you can see holes where the chains probably run around the rafters of the basement below. And I think Father Donovich would look to you, Ervir, with a bit of a pleading, expression behind the eyes. You said before, when you, well, helped my boy, it was possible that one day soon you would return with a miracle that could return him to me. Have you come back with blessings from your deity?
Have indeed come with Lord Kellamvor's and the Morning Lord's blessing to test that theory.
He nods.
May I approach?
You may. As I said, be careful.
You said he seems incoherent. Does he seem...
Not incoherent, catatonic. You're talking about
Okay,
Doru?
yeah. Like, does he have a sense of self?
You could do a little bit of investigating, or I guess I should say like a medical, like a medicine roll might give you an idea of what's really going on there, but he just kind of like stares forward at the floor in front of him, eyes slightly unfocused, and kind of rocks back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, that's just self-soothing. Probably don't even need a check for that. My concern was maybe I hold person But if he
Hmm.
passes that check somehow, although I don't know what his wisdom score could possibly be right now, um, that if he resists it, I don't know.
If they
They probably feel
resist,
something, but I don't
they
know.
do. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know what they feel necessarily. I mean, it can't feel worse than all the chains, right? It's just
That is
another
true.
chain.
So you're planning to hold person so that you can release him?
I'm planning to hold person so I can get close.
Ah, I see.
Because remove curse is a touch.
Let me check something real quick. Okay, humanoid. Let me double check. So I'm not going to be like, aha, idiot, you wasted a spell slot. I think you would know whether or not this is going to work, but let me confirm.
Old
Okay.
person or because it's
Yes, because it works on
undead, not humanoid.
specific types. Yes, I think you would recognize that at this point he is an undead.
Okay.
Um, not necessarily going to be subjected to that kind of magic.
Well, then I think I
And you
will
could, I
just
mean, if you want to like walk
calmly and
up
slowly approach
behind
and
him
yeah.
and touch like his back, his arms are chained in front of him.
That's the idea, I think. Is to then just slowly approach, not make the sudden movements. Try to be a little quiet, but it's not like I'm trying to actively be stealthy, but calm
Okay. Um,
and reach for his back or like the back of his neck or like the top of his back, whatever.
Mhm.
And cast remove curse.
All right.
And offer a prayer to the deities as he does so.
Okay. So of course it necessitates a prayer to Kelimvor for your magic, like all of them do.
Yeah.
So I'm
And the
sure there's
Morning Lord
snippets of
is more for
scripture.
Doru and
Right.
Father.
So I guess that's what I was going to ask is whether or not you're going to work that in. So you are.
Yeah, the prayer will be definitely to come forward.
Okay. Go ahead and link it for me just to make sure. Yeah, all curses. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. You reach out and you place a hand between his shoulders, and there's a definite like stiffening at your touch. Like he kind of like goes rigid.
I'm gloved at least, so it shouldn't be too warm.
Right, right, right. But as the spell begins, there's only a matter of seconds, but you begin to say the prayer, and he snaps from like this catatonic stillness to thrashing and writhing under your touch, but you are already initiating the contact you need for the spell, and you are a combat, caster. You're not some, cloistered clergyman that's never been in the thick of things and having to recite
I've
a
got
prayer.
Warcaster.
Indeed. So it's not enough to stop you in any way, and he does need to make a save. So I'm going to do that real quick. God damn it, I clicked a link on my bar instead of the tab. I'm loading back in. Rejoin voice, please. There we go. All right. So, DC 15. All right. You place your palm on him, you say the prayer, and you can feel that there's a moment of resistance that the spell does break whatever afflicted him. And very quickly, almost spreading out from that point of touch, you can see a slight bit of color return to his skin. He's hardly, healthy and pink, but gray to white to ever so slightly tinged with the color of life. And he falls forward, no longer able to hold up the weight of all of the iron that's kind of bound him here. And you can tell he immediately slumps into unconsciousness and almost certainly does need additional medical attention. So I don't know if you're gonna throw a spell
Burger
in
would
there.
immediately, yeah, I guess try to hold the weight of some of the chains off of him, if he can at least grasp any of it. So maybe he's holding them slightly above ground or
Sure.
off the ground, and hit him with a cure wounds.
Okay.
Oh, oops.
Okay.
And actually, if he's unconscious, that's automatic max.
Yes,
if he's
it's
at 0
automatic max.
HP.
So that's what's your bonus for?
1d8 plus.
Yeah, so it'd be
his-
12.
Yeah.
So yeah, you hit him with this and you feel the energy not bounce off or cause harm like it would to an undead, but instead course into him properly. And the flush does return to his face, though he does not come back to consciousness. And you can see a number of things happen at the same time. Again, Doru takes a shuddering breath, which he has not been doing as an undead. And though he is still unconscious, begins to breathe normally. You can feel a heartbeat. And Father Donovich clasps his hands together in prayer, and you can hear him muttering, one of the fallbacks you've heard in Valaki as you've attended a number of services. But he raises his head up and he, in a shaky voice, "Praise be to the morning, Lord. My prayers have been finally answered." And he falls asleep, standing up, falls over, and as he does, lightning strikes the church. The skies grow dark. You have taken one of Strahd's playthings, and he may not be very happy about that. But we'll have to lean into the repercussions next week. As I think that's where we'll end our session for
Right.
today.
I left you your tree. Get over it.
Right? Oh yeah.
But yes, good job. One situation successfully resolved. Check.
One at a time.
Quest complete.
If we don't die here, we can go to Irina's brother and get that 5 gold or whatever it was for not, for basically not letting her die.
Well, who says he's necessarily going to come down and fuck with you in person? But
Right.
that might change his
Maybe send some monsters at us or something.
thoughts on letting you just do whatever the fuck you want. I'm going to create an event for next week, just before we lose Dave here. I think that went pretty smoothly,
Yes.
pretty efficiently. Why will that not paste? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we got kind of a lot done. How did you guys feel about the sort of fast-forwarded stuff at the start? I think it still lets you accomplish things without having to be full RP encounter for everything.
Yeah.
Like doing the scouting, getting the armor handled, all that. Is that fine?
That's
You didn't
totally
find it too
fine.
immersion breaking or
Oh
anything?
yeah, no, yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Obviously, we're not in a scenario to do that now, but I think for any situation where,
Yeah,
like, you
we've
guys have
been
some
there, done
downtime,
that.
it saves time.
Yeah.
You've met these NPCs.
Right. I mean,
It's
we spent a good chunk of sessions in Valky getting to know all of them, so at this point,
Mhm.
it's just like, hey, I need this, I need that.
right.
Maybe some
I
light
think
role
it makes
play here and
sense.
there.
And yeah,
Yeah,
you
it's
guys
not-
still got to talk to Borden. You had some opportunities here and there, but it's not.
Right.
Yeah, doesn't get too bogged
I don't
down.
need to
You
spend.
talk to Lady
I don't need to
Walker.
spend 30 minutes buying potions or armor or anything, or whatever.
Exactly. A shopping montage can be fun after you've come back to town with 50,000 gold, but when it's just regular upkeep shit, it's
It's like, yeah, right.
not worth spending the time.
I mean, we were buying some stuff that was cool.
You were, that's true.
Spend some moolah.
But I guess what I mean is you didn't need to have the shopping montage of all of the crazy magic items for sale and trying them out
Right.
all
Right.
out back or whatever. But yeah, so I had a good one.
Yep.
Thank you for making time, Dave, even though I know you've
Of
got
course.
the heart out, so did my best to end on schedule for that too.
Nope. Appreciate it. But
Yeah, I'm good for
I'm gonna
next week.
dip out. I'll catch you guys
Peace, Dave.
No
later
problem.
on.
Catch you later.
Later. Yeah, it should be good for next week. So
Cool. Same thing as ever, if you're not, just let me know. As a reminder, there might be 2 that I can't do, but if there are, I'll let you know. It's all going to depend on how well I'm packed. But the 16th and 23rd of June, the 23rd for sure,
Mhm.
I'm in Chicago, and that morning we'll have woken up at about 7 a.m. after being up till 2 a.m. and the fourth day of a camping festival, and then I have to drive to Illinois from Michigan and then get on a plane back to Arizona that doesn't get here until 10:30 p.m. So that
Fun.
day's not happening.
Fun.
Yes, yeah, that's a no. Okay.
But the 16th is a maybe. It all depends on if I have like last minute shit to get ready for travel that, needs to happen. Because the
I,
next day is when I fly right after work. So realistically, eh,
I mean,
uh,
don't push yourself at the same time either. So
Yeah, especially if we
fair
get
enough.
in, like 3 out of those 5
Out of the
sessions.
next four,
Yeah,
yeah,
right. I mean, that's like, oh yeah, out of the next 4, it's like we're good. You know what I'm saying?
I
yeah.
mean,
And I hope that works out that way.
Yeah, right.
I just feel bad about missing 2 weeks in a row, but
Yeah.
this is like
yeah,
the one time that I'm really out of town until maybe
Mhm.
Christmas. So, you
Exactly.
know.
yeah. I mean, we've always been pretty consistent about sessions too. So
Yeah, I feel like we've done a pretty good job of like actually playing almost every week. We've had a few that we've had to
At
miss,
least
but
2 weeks a month pretty consistently.
yes.
And
Yes.
then after July, August marks, I think August, I think it's the 5th is going to be the 1 year. So on the 4th, it'll be like the day
Nice.
before 1 year.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And
Or
you guys are, I think you are moving at a good clip. Somebody said it earlier in the session, like, I think we've got most of the hooks, and at least as far as like the big location hooks you
yeah.
do. So from here, it's kind of like you wanted to come back here to where you started and left a few things before you could really deal with them. But from there, it's going to be like, all right, this is the plan from here going forward.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
but
much of
imagine
yeah.
Valicky ended up eating so much of our time. Holy
there's
shit.
a lot of information to
Valaki
learn though.
does.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the first area that really, yes, introduces you to the world and like the major players in the big city, you know. But also it's like a fucking political rat's nest. There's just so much stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's not that like it's Valaki South Dragon though. I'm enjoying all of it. So
Right.
Yeah. I feel like you guys have engaged with what's going on there quite a bit, which I think is interesting, and I like it. Um, the previous time I ran this, they definitely like took a side, but they were just like, nah, both of these families stuck. We're immediately siding with Danica. Did not engage with the Walkers. Did not engage with the Baron. That leads to, unsurprisingly, like a bunch of nonsense chaos, but um, they didn't really like dig into the schemery, which I feel like you guys have, and I like that. I think
And I
Valaki is designed for schemery.
and I think it's key that like, oh, okay, Baron's got a guy who this character's backstory is interested in.
Hmm.
This lady's got something going on with murdering this guy's family. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, okay, now it's like individual players are invested for their own reasons, on top of the fact that
Yes,
we're trying to figure out this place and who's, what's going on. So
and
it
that's kind
definitely
of how I
helps.
feel like it's working out. Like you're invested in killing Ezek for sure. Ralmir has tangled himself up with the Walkers. Ervir has tangled himself up with the Church. Like I
Right.
think it's you've all found like a thing to latch onto, and that's good.
yeah, we all have our
Your own
personal endeavors.
subplots. Yeah.
Right. And then
I kind of like that.
I've had players too. I'll be like, hey, give me some backstory stuff I can throw in the story, and they'll be like, nah, I don't want to do any of that. I'm good. And they
Hmm.
just want to be there and roll some dice and shoot some shit. So I mean, there's a little
I
bit of
mean,
everything for everybody.
but yeah, as soon as you tied in my character with the walkers, though, because I was like wondering, because I knew like some way that like people were gonna find out my backstory though, but I wasn't sure how it was gonna go about it. So
Right.
Right. And it is too perfect of a spot to not dedicate the attention to your backstory there, I think, because she is, as the mod is written, she is obsessed with fiends and all of this. And I was just immediately on you mentioning your backstory. I was like, oh, that's going to pair perfectly with Lady Wachter.
Right.
Um, and I thought it was really convenient that the backstory you had given me, Ayakabachi, worked so well with just having Ezek be an appropriate, hook for that. And obviously, I think it's kind of fun, and thank you for playing along, Mike, I think Irvir's the right cleric for this, but like to toy with the idea of a world in which not only is religion real, but you have to navigate the do I acknowledge another god? Is my god going to be okay with that? I think you're not worshiping, but being
It's
fully willing to
respectful. It's
work
reverent.
with. Yes, I think that's really interesting to me. I like that as
And I
a
can't imagine any of the
plot thread.
deities because they all have to recognize the other deities as well. Like,
Right.
there's basically a deity union.
Right.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what the
that if
pantheons
you,
are.
yeah, so like if, yeah, like the Faerunian pantheon.
Mhm.
Absolutely, it's like if someone does something they really all don't agree with, where it's like you can kind of do whatever you want in your domain and your portfolio, but you're overstepping your bounds, and you need to check yourself right fucking now. Like
Before
Yeah,
you
and
wreck
you
that's
have
yourself.
to.
and that's actually like exact because like Malar's like a demigod, and he is a demigod because he crossed the line, and then like another god hunted him and
Mhm.
like defeated him. So it's like that's why he's all fucking knows his place because somebody fucked him up. What's the guy's name?
I don't recall. You'd think I would know that, but it's fucking not coming to my brain. But I like that you guys. I'm still struggling a little bit to hook Dave, but I think Dave is content being a bit more of a passenger.
Right. Just along for roll some
Um,
dice and do his thing and add in a couple
and
of
that's totally fine.
yeah.
I
I got
think
players like that
it's
too.
yeah, it's not unexpected to have that be the case. But I really appreciate that you guys are all um, willing to dive in and role play and just kind of like I don't want to say take the bait because that sounds negative, but like yeah,
Engage with the
maybe,
hook.
I mean, I
yeah,
definitely
bite the
did.
hook is probably better
Yeah.
phrasing.
So I'm
you
like,
you did take a little
that
bit of the
doesn't sound
bait
like
with
killing
with the
Strahd.
barbarians.
The god's name
What?
is Nobanian. It is the Lion King, considered originally been interpreted the King of Beasts.
No Bannigan.
Yeah, but I went into this campaign and wanting to do more RP related stuff, so I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad to offer you a place to do that. I know you've mentioned one max power is more
Yeah.
likely to stab a problem than talk to it. So
Yeah. And then even when we were doing both campaigns, when I started doing like more RP stuff, though, he just kind of just wanted to do stabbing. He was kind of done with talking with people.
yeah,
You know, and it's like you can sit there and just let people RP, but what he made it worse was he'd be like, "Why are you doing that?" It's like,
right,
"Cause I want to." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
right.
and that makes it
Well, and
really
also
worse.
like
The
that's
game.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. It always feels to me like so there's two things, right? So adventurers probably are often the strongest people in the room and probably can just get their way by punching everything out of their way. But like, is that a
A lot of pussies
realistic
doing that.
person? Yes, and also that. Like,
And then
I don't know.
what would kill me too is every times he shined, where like there was this one time where they had to get inside this goblin like camp, and he convinced the goblins that our traveling dog friend Dingleberry was like a magical dog, and he like used his psionic powers to make the dog fly.
Yeah, like that was cool as
And I was
fuck
like,
when he
dude, that was awesome. Like, what the fuck? Why can't we, do shit?
Right, where is this the rest of the time?
Right, and then they just walked on in. And I was like, there you guys go. Hey, you're in there. And then eventually they end up fighting them, and they end up getting fucked up. I forget, or maybe that was. I think I forget
I
exactly the
can't remember.
order, but yeah, something.
I can't exactly remember if what are you talking when we all got captured.
Yeah, you got captured eventually, but you guys did. I do remember him doing that thing with the dog, and I was like, dude, that's perfect. That's what I'm talking about. It's a bunch of stupid
Well, that's the
goblins.
thing. Like, you have moments of
Well, you have
engagement like that, and yeah, it's hard not to want that all the time. You know?
And honestly, the mistake of running it with XP, because Brian says it all the time when in Baldur's Gate.
Ah,
He's like, this situation starting to look a lot like XP, Zach. Starting to look a lot
yep.
like XP right here. Because it's like, I might as well just murder them all and get some shit.
Well, that's the thing. Like, so for a long time, I've considered a successful RP encounter, and I don't just mean like talking to the shopkeeper, but I mean like when you guys sat down with Lady Wachter and had that tense conversation and like kind of negotiated is the wrong word in terms of like you didn't counter offer her, but you like wound your way through that conversation, found a solution that let you walk out without a fight, and had a plan with how to deal with what's in the town. That should give you experience, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
my thing too is that I didn't do the experience like on the moment, so it's like there were situations where I'd be like, that was pretty cool, they did that, and I'd like round up some shit because it's like this number that they've added up is not divisible by 3.
Hmm.
So okay, they did do this, they did do that. That's pretty cool. Let me give some. But it's like at the end of the day, when the session ends, you're like, all right, you all get this much. You don't know exactly what it is that got you
Right, you don't
that,
know where it came
other
from.
than just murdering the shit out of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, remember that one time we murdered all those dudes? We got so much. And they're like, yeah, you did, because you did kill the fuck out of a lot of dudes, but.
I mean, that was most sessions in
That was most
Phandelver.
sessions just fucking stabbing shit. But I mean, Phandelver also lends itself to like, imagine if it
I
was
mean,
just Barovia. Like how the role playing is pretty limited to just like this tiny little town, or like they got a goblin problem, and
yeah,
Yeah,
Barovia
I
have
mean,
like
actually, Phandelver and Barovia have a lot of similarities. You're
right.
very isolated in a small community.
There's
Yeah.
not a whole lot going on. Where like having Valaki right there is just like, oh well, now we have this whole nother place to like emphasize how different it is, and how like how much bigger it can be, and like all these other
Mhm.
things.
And you've
and
even
we,
seen one other example of how a town could be very different. You went to Kresk.
Yeah, and they're a bunch of cultists, a bunch of crazy people. They drinking the juice.
They drinking the juice.
I don't know what
On
cult they
the
follow, but they do it.
topic of XP, since Vampire the Masquerade is very much a roleplay heavy game,
Yeah.
you pretty much get awarded XP at DM discretion, but there's a couple guidelines where it's like, yeah, if everyone showed up and some shit happened, like, give everyone an XP. But then, like, did people's characters learn something? Give an additional XP based off of that.
Yep.
Like, if they actually developed a skill or, like, navigated a social situation where
Right,
there was some extra knowledge they now have or
right,
skill set. And then a couple other things like, did they do something really within their convictions or shit like that?
they face their
Like,
fears.
no more than 5 XP per session, but, like, you may get 0 XP if really a whole lot of nothing happened.
Right. It's a shopping shopping episode.
Right. But I guess more than like me saying that a conversation like that literally rewards XP, because I do not track XP.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
fully
I've learned.
milestone.
I don't do that anymore either.
It's because Vampire, it doesn't have levels. You spend
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
XP to
No,
get
I
your
know.
dots. That's all.
I was just
okay.
going to say that I feel like it's still important to keep that in mind as something that could spark a milestone,
Right.
if that makes sense. Like, it still counts as adventuring in my mind. And I think that, yeah, I don't know.
No, that makes
I've
sense.
always strongly felt that talking your way past a fight should count the same.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I mean, and then if I'm doing like good rolls and stuff like that, what's the difference between getting good rolls in a conversation and getting good rolls in a fight?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You build a character for that, you know?
And
Yeah,
when
that's kind of the disconnect in a system because arguably it's like, well, did you get faster? No, but you should now have a skill bonus to like, or like a charisma bonus or something. But it's like you
Right.
didn't work on your agility at all if you just navigate a bunch of social situations. So it's like, well, that's not how level up work here.
and for the
No, of
sake
course, but it acknowledges that like the bard or the warlock or the rogue, who are the
Yeah.
fast talkers, probably did both learn and practice their trade in that scenario. So like,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, does the bard probably get as much out of the frontline combat as everyone else? Maybe not. So it kind of balances out if you just handle it party wide, if that makes any sense.
right. And then like it's also really nice too because if you're constantly doing combat, I mean you could turn a situation from a very short, simple situation to something incredibly elongated where it's the entire session and you might not even finish the combat. Comparatively, instead of just fighting the guards in front of the castle with all these people, you just socially work your way through and get to talk to the king. Well, now maybe that entire process is like an hour or two. Maybe, you know what I mean? Instead of being a multiple hour sessions because you're just constantly fighting everything you see.
I mean, because there was definitely some Phandelver sessions though where all we did was just do like a couple combat encounters,
And
sometimes just
and
one.
and when you got to the later dungeons, there's definitely opportunity for like social interactions. Sometimes when you just see a bunch of fucking wild animals that want to eat you, you know what I mean? But like,
Yeah, yeah.
specifically, there
Like
was
when there's like bugbears and shit, it's like, yeah, we're just gonna kill them. Like you're not
there
gonna
was a
reason with
chain devil in there who was trying to like convince you to get in a cage, and like if you got in the cage, he was just gonna try to kill you anyway. But it's like he didn't just want to kill you the moment he saw you. You guys could have just turned around or left or just not dealt. You know what I mean? But you ended up
Mhm.
fight him anyway, cause fuck it, you know, we throw hands. You know, but
Yeah,
But
I
yeah, like
mean,
there's a lot of shit like
mo-
that where it's like
I
not
mean,
every single encounter in a dungeon has to be. In fact, that book I was gonna give you, one of the things is like don't trust a pretty person in a dungeon, because it's like a trope of
oh,
like it's probably a trick. But
Yeah.
like you could probably meet some people in dungeons who are also dungeon adventurers, or maybe people who like got stuck there, or just like actual normal people who aren't, you know, gonna be evil.
trust the flump.
Right? Trust a flump. Like you know what?
Don't trust my
I
little
was
girl.
really
She got
happy.
textbooks.
I was really happy
It's
that
too dark out to be going to school.
right. I was really happy you guys didn't fight those. We had the Drow elves. You guys, I was afraid Max Power's gonna murder them instantly. But you guys roleplay with them a little bit. But yeah, like I wish dungeons had more of that, where it's just like things to interact with, other than just fighting everything.
I mean, I don't mind like doing a combat heavy campaign and whatnot though,
But it's
but
nicer to have that balance. It's nice to have a little bit of
yeah.
both.
'Cause, I mean, we're definitely started like we didn't do a lot of combat like in the beginning of this though, but I was still having fun with everything. So
Exactly. And combat's rough when you're like level 1 and 2, so it's probably better to have
yeah, yeah.
combat.
I mean, it's cool in the first combat encounter though, and they had the wolves though, and I just one shot it immediately. So I was like,
Right?
oh,
I like this.
oh, okay.
I
I'm
like this
kind of a
newfound power.
boss.
I was like, why haven't I not played a rogue before?
Right.
We didn't have such a heavily weighted evil party already. I probably would have played a lawful evil rogue.
You know,
It's
evil's
funny
just
because
perspective, you know?
there's some evil in there, but I feel like it's all the measured kind of evil,
Yeah, like
you know?
I didn't save that little girl because I liked her. I saved her because someone was going to give me something.
Right. But you were still willing to save her.
Right.
Yeah.
For the something. And I balanced her on my nose.
That was
That's true.
definitely not the impression I got early on, but I'm glad this is where we ended up.
Oh, did you think we were just gonna be a bunch of backstabbers?
I was so afraid that I would just have to throw this character out. I feared that so much. I talked to Zach about it so much. I was like, bro, I need to come up with a secondary character. Like, there's no fucking shot that I can actually roleplay this character with this party.